What is the truth? And can we even know it anymore? Hate on the home front and the power of conversation. All that and more on Serial Christianity. Welcome to Serial Christianity. Welcome back, those of you who have become consistent listeners, viewers, and commenters out
friends, there. Our friends.
The numbers are so vast, I can't even get into them. And for those of you who are jumping on the bandwagon, we're glad that you're with us. And we would love for you, whether you've been listening for a while or you're new, we would love for you to go ahead right now, click the subscribe button if you're listening or watching. That will help us out a lot. We really, really appreciate that. Also, give this video a thumbs up and comment, share this with your friends if you find the conversation beneficial and helpful. Or you can cut a little snippet out.
Yeah.
Cut a little snippet. You know, on YouTube, you can actually send people a link that begins at the exact point you want it to in the video.
Are you serious?
I haven't learned that technology yet.
That's incredible.
Google
That's
it.
Great.
You can do
I've
that.
seen it done on videos where you're like, how do you fix your sink? And it'll like cut to the spot you need.
Oh, yeah.
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 You've been having sink trouble?
I'm just saying.
But at Lance's house, it would be how to fix your ice maker.
Your ice maker.
Yeah,
Ice
stuff
maker
like
trouble.
that. Yeah. Well, I don't use it a lot, so it gets kind of
When people come to your
backed
house,
up a little
though,
bit.
it's not working
Yeah.
properly.
I've been trying to use it more and then dump the ice out just to keep it going a little bit.
Yeah. We never use our ice maker either.
Yeah.
But when my in-laws come in, they love like ice in drinks. I don't ever put ice in drinks because here's
You're
why.
wrong.
Here's why. Here's why. I have sensitive teeth, so I don't want it to be. I don't want the ice touching my teeth.
I can see
like
that.
I don't. I don't mind having a cold drink, but I don't want the ice to touch my teeth because it's uncomfortable. But they love ice and drinks, so every time they come over, all I ever hear is like, you know, like the ice maker working.
Wow.
And I'm like, what is that noise?
What do
And
they put
then
it in? Just
Drinks? Just
what kind?
water.
What kind?
I don't know. The reason I was asking is because my grandpa, he's passed away. My dad's dad, he's passed away. But whenever he was alive, he loved to get crushed up ice and milk.
You know,
He
what? I
loved
almost said when you
Cold
said what do they put it in?
Yeah.
I almost said everything but milk.
He loved it. He loved to have milk in there, and like an old Kentucky football cup or something.
What
One of
is-
those plastic ones you
Dude.
get from games.
Speaking of
That type of
grandpas
stuff.
and crushed ice,
Yeah.
my childhood is filled with this memory, as well as all of my cousins. When we went to my grandpa's house, he had one of the first, like it was when crushed ice like first came out in home refrigerators.
Mm-hmm.
He had that thing, and so we would always have crushed ice, which was a luxury at his house, with Mountain Dew and iced oatmeal cookies.
Whoa.
Whoa.
You give me that right now,
Like
and I'm
a
going to get
frozen oatmeal cookie?
all nostalgic on you. You're going to take me back. I'm going to have some good.
You know what? I would be willing to say that, and then who knows if this is true? I'd have to ask him. I would be willing to say that my grandpa probably has other than like at a restaurant, obviously they give you a drink with ice in it, but he's probably never thought I'm going to put ice in my drink at home.
What?
Yeah, never.
That blows my mind.
So
Never.
you guys,
He's drinking coffee constantly.
you
No
guys-
iced Get him an iced coffee. See what I want to know.
I feel like he'd look at that and just set it down. Hey, do that. You know,
like,
he does
what is
that.
this?
Zach, what would he do, Zach? Give us. So you show up at his house. You have an iced coffee,
Paint us a picture.
and you walk in. You say, "What do you call him? Grandpa?
Papa.
Papa?
Yeah.
I want you to try this iced coffee." What does he say?
He would look, if I handed it to him and he could see that it was like the coffee with ice in it, he would probably look at it and just set it down and like he's disappointed in me. Like why would you even bring such a thing to me? You know, that's what he does sometimes when I ask him a question. Not so much anymore, but used to when I was a kid. If I'd ask him a question that he thought was unreasonable, like a dumb question or whatever, rather than answering it, he'd just look at me like this.
Disappointment.
Yeah, like I'm sorry, I don't know.
Can't believe you're in my
Just help
lineage.
me.
You were talking about stuff that gets you nostalgic. I don't know why I wouldn't hear my mom, but I did. You all played basketball growing up, and did you ever go to those like basketball camps? Like Cumberland College used to have those basketball camps and stuff like that.
All summer, baby.
Okay, so I remember going to those top basketball camps, and Dad would always stop at like a gas station or something, and I'd get some Gatorade or something to eat on the way there. So I would get like either like a Yoo-Hoo or some sort of milk or chocolate milk or something, and I get these. I mean, this is the most, this is the most like horrible diet of all time. Most horrible diet. That's a good sentence. But anyways,
You also said chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk.
chocolate milk.
That guy's a chocolate milk, Daddy. Dad.
I get these like
We can put you in my baba.
I don't even know, these like breaded with, you know what I'm talking about? It's like a breaded thing with a like a square deal with like strawberry filling on the inside with like.
Are you talking about a
glazed-
toaster strudel?
Not a toaster
Are you
strudel.
talking about a
Pop-Tart?
Pop-Tart?
No.
Golly.
I'm talking thick, like a thick breaded.
Oh,
I
you're
don't
talking
know.
about a turnover.
Kinda. It's
Golly.
hard to explain these different things, but
Apparently.
Yeah, turnover.
yeah.
What are
I don't know. Or those like those filled gas station food like apple turnover things or cherry turnover things.
Yeah.
I get those things.
Is that crickets?
I didn't even know that was a button. you
Good
had.
story. Good story, Lance. Please continue.
You guys ever do anything like that?
Well, I'm sure I did, but I did.
Like what?
Yeah, like
What did you just say? Did you tell a story?
No, I was talking about.
this guy. Did you guys ever eat random food? Is that your question?
No, I would eat the worst junk food on the way to these basketball
okay.
games.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
used to do that
Yeah.
on the bus terribly.
No nerd rope.
Okay, yeah.
I really almost said no. What did I almost say?
I don't know.
No rope.
You know what though? I could never drink Gatorade while doing some kind of like athletic thing. It always made my stomach hurt. Is that you guys? Or did you drink Gatorade during like a
I would
game?
drink Gatorade, but I feel like Gatorade leaves that taste in your mouth where you're kind of like,
Leaves that film.
yeah, like, ugh.
Yeah.
It always made my stomach hurt. It's like I gotta have
I
water.
could do it.
I remember when Gatorade switched to the cap that looked like lips or whatever. You could turn it. It was a little smoother to go in. It had the little top instead of the pop top. It was like a twist thing,
More like your baba.
like my Baba.
Yeah. There's nothing I love more than like the squirty water bottles that you,
Oh,
know
yeah.
from far away.
For
They're
sure.
awesome.
Oh, like you definitely had those in football.
Oh,
For sure.
yeah.
And the trainer would be like,
Yeah, they don't. You don't even. That's the thing about football. You don't even have to.
you don't
drink
even touch
yourself.
it. Yeah.
You don't even have
You
to.
just tilt your head back and open
I want
your
to
mouth.
drink.
The problem with that with our trainers is our trainers are like in 5th grade and stuff. So when we were playing football, they were way too short to do that to us.
You
So
gotta
it's
bend
like,
down.
No, we were a squad. Just like take it from them and do it. But
Yeah.
You were
all the
quarterback at
like, all
Corbin,
the-
right?
Yeah, I played.
Why did you
football.
need water to just hand it off? That make you tired?
Yo.
You're not wrong. It just hurts.
The truth hurts. See, folks, we can talk about the truth here.
This is a truth podcast. Here's some truth.
Oh, wow.
So
Speaking of
a
truth.
couple days ago, well, starting out, you guys have kids, and Sadie's not old enough for this probably yet. Ellie probably is. We got Jonah early on a thing called a balance bike. So there's no pedals on it. There's no training wheels. It's a small bicycle for a kid, and they can put their feet down to support themselves and learn kind of to paddle with their feet and then lift their feet up and kind of learn how to balance before they have to deal with pedaling or
So momentum.
they
is what that makes
bypass
them go.
training wheels 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little momentum from their feet and they can stop with their feet. So they bypass training wheels entirely. Kara and I did this 5K one time. I saw this like 2-year-old kid doing it. I was like, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
2-year-old
and I-
kid doing a 5K?
He was
On a
doing the
balance
balance bike. And I was like, this is crazy. I got to do that. Whenever we have kids, I've got to do this. So we got a little balance bike for Jonah, and he learned how to do it really well. Maybe for sure a year ago, maybe when he was 3, but definitely 4. And so now he's 5. He just turned 5, and I got him a little kid bike with pedals on it. So just a couple days ago, we were out, and I was practicing with him a little bit on it, and that he finally got it. And what's cool about it is, I'm sure you guys did do training wheels? Did you use training wheels at all?
No.
I did.
I did.
So if you use training wheels, the moment you take those things off, you're usually in the grass because it's 100% you're going to fall and probably fall hard.
Yep.
And, as a parent, you're like, that's the last thing you want. So I was really nervous when Jonah started, but because he had the balance down, he hasn't wrecked really once. The only thing that's hard is like learning to start with the pedals.
Yeah.
So whenever I was a kid, it was in the grass and you were falling to stop. You were falling horrible when you got the training wheels off because you're just so used to be imbalanced.
Yeah.
So I would encourage all parents to get a balance bike for the kid. So Jude has that now, the balance bike, and we're transitioning to him.
You
So-
said, go ahead.
No, have at it.
I was just going to say, I didn't do the training wheels thing, but I basically, my uncle, my parents were divorced, so my uncle was around all the time to teach me stuff like that. So basically, he would just set me on top of this little grass hill in his yard and just push me. And then I just go until it stopped or I fell over and he'd make me get up and do it again. And it was no training wheels and I learned to ride a bike in a day maybe. So that's
had
what
to.
he did.
You have to.
Had to or I was going to fall.
That's right.
Yeah. I think about Jonah, and I know he's going to fall just because you can't avoid it when you're riding bikes, especially once you start pushing the limits and you're like doing jumps and stuff. Like,
Sick tricks.
I mean, I've had some horrible bike falls.
Oh, yeah.
Doing stuff, and I know that it's so painful going over the handlebars and stuff. You want to protect your kids from that sort of thing. So I don't know. I was just really glad that we did that with him. I was really proud of him.
Yeah, that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
The worst bicycle wreck is when you go down, but the handlebar kind of gets turned, and then the actual bar goes into your gut. Like, God.
And then you've racked yourself
It's probably.
on the
Well,
frame.
you've landed on
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
We've all done that.
You said a 5K a minute ago.
Yeah.
It made me think. A couple years ago, my small group, the girls decided, it'd be fun if we went to Knoxville and did a 5K. It's like, okay, sure. So all of us guys, I mean, we hate running, right? That were in our group at that time. The girls were doing it just because that's what they did. But so they find this 5K. It's a superhero 5K. So you're supposed to like wear a superhero T-shirt or whatever. So I hate running terribly, but I'm also competitive. So I was like, okay, I used to run a lot when I was in middle school and stuff. I'm gonna try to win this thing. So we get down there, and I tried really hard to win, but I think I got like maybe third place. But the guy that won it was wearing a full Buzz Lightyear costume. Also, I was wearing just a superhero T-shirt. He's wearing the full costume, also pushing a stroller with a kid in it, and he smoked me bad. I mean, he beat me so bad that I was embarrassed that I even tried to run the thing. It was awful. I was trying to keep up with him, and he was so far. I couldn't even see him anymore.
Was second place close to you?
I think I could at least see him.
Yeah.
He beat me so bad I couldn't even see
What
him.
was he dressed as?
I don't know. I can't remember. All I remember is Buzz. Buzz beat me so bad.
I mean, that's to be expected.
I guess.
It's Buzz Lightyear.
What were you
Right.
wearing?
Did
You
he
had a
start
what
by
did you-
saying
I
to
was wearing
infinity and beyond?
yeah. I was wearing regular running stuff except for just like a superhero T-shirt.
I wish you had a cape on or something.
I had a cape on.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So, but he was in the full thing and pushing a stroller.
He's like wearing a plastic helmet too.
No, he didn't have a helmet on.
That was foolish. The idea to begin with to go run a 5K.
I agree completely.
No.
I disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Iron Man over here,
Yeah.
Lance, the big cat, is an official
Finisher.
finisher of the Iron Man.
Yeah.
Which-
Cozumel
Gosh, I hate to hear it.
Iron Man.
I hate to even think
You can
about
pay
it.
me after this episode for throwing that out there.
Oh, thanks everybody. That's good.
Maybe Iron Man will sponsor us. We know Wendy's is looking into sponsoring Serial Christianity.
Long John Silver's not so much.
Not so much. Go back a couple episodes if you want to get out on that joke. But today we're going to continue our conversation that we started last week. Obviously, if you are listening or watching this in real time, then you know what's going on in the world. If you don't, we are in the midst of really just incredibly tense times. The George Floyd murder just happened, 3 weeks ago? I don't know. Time is
I
hard
don't know.
to
They
judge
had a
right
funeral,
now.
I think,
Maybe two.
just not long ago.
Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, well, anyway, whenever it was. We're also on the heels of or coming out of this quarantine that we've been in with coronavirus. And so it's been hard for me to track time, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot happening at once.
Yeah, for sure. So last week we just had a honest, really kind of raw conversation about how we were feeling. We probably, to a certain degree, hadn't processed our thoughts and emotions enough, which is fine. We had a conversation about how we were feeling at the time, and really we just challenged everyone to take the time to educate yourself, to search your own heart, to look inward, and to really see where you stood with the issue of race, if there was anything in you. And Zach mentioned, where David calls on the Lord to search his heart and know him, and to reveal any wicked way within him. And so, we went through all of that. I know I was feeling particularly, probably, I guess the only right word is angry, about lots of things that were going on, confused about some things. And so I've spent the last week really trying to absorb as much information as I possibly could, just by reading, and also, more importantly, I think, by having conversations with as many people as I can. People, black people, brown people, white people, privileged people, less fortunate, people who grew up around here that grew up in poverty, like literally had so many conversations. And so I feel pretty good today. Yesterday, I was like exhausted from it all. Honestly, like yesterday, I just was like, ugh, I just don't even know if I can continue. I guess I just needed a break. I was just tired. But I think one of the things that contributed to me feeling that way, and to a lot of folks feeling that way, even to the point where it makes us kind of want to give up, and some people do, they walk away, is this idea that we really don't even know what's true anymore. It's so hard to tell. It's so hard to know, even if you are an honest seeker of truth, when it comes to what's going on in the world. Now, obviously, we believe in certain biblical truths and things that have been revealed through Scripture from the Lord, but I'm talking about truth as far as what is really going on in the world, and I just feel like it's almost non-existent anymore. It's almost as if we can't know the truth, and so, I mean, I guess that's a question in and of itself. Can we even know the truth? You've got the whole coronavirus thing, where there's all these theories out there, conspiracies and whatever, which on any of these issues, you have your extremes, right? You have your, you have your extremes. And then there's, from that end to that end, there's opinions and thoughts and things that are shared as fact all along the spectrum. And you just don't know what to believe with the coronavirus. It was, you got to stay in, you got to wear a mask, you got to, this thing is super contagious. And I understand too, a lot of it is we didn't know for sure. And it's better to be cautious than to risk everyone's life. So I get that too. But now it's like all these things are coming out where, well, it's not, as contagious as we think. And then there's some inconsistencies with, well, you can only be in a group of 10, but if you want to go protest, then you can be in a group of 100. That just on its face doesn't make sense, and it's like, what is going on and what is true? Like, if this is a dangerous thing, it's a dangerous thing. And then you've got, social media contributing to this, and everybody's voice there, and you're just scrolling and you're seeing. And then, of course, you got the news. Need we say more? So, can we even know the truth anymore?
I feel like we've got. It's very hard to know what's going on with anything in real time, and there's so many things that are happening right now. It's hard to know until you can get away from it a little bit and look at it. It's hard to know like what you're actually seeing, and like you were talking about with the COVID thing, it's hard to know like what's true about the whole disease or sickness or whatever, and how to properly navigate the waters and deal with it. Yeah. And I feel like in the beginning we saw what we were seeing out of China, and then seeing what was happening to Italy. And the Italy thing was freaking us out big time because they were having to make really, really hard decisions in these hospitals and medical facilities of just basically deciding who lives and dies based on the availability of these ventilators and different things and how hard that is. And, you know, just trying to prepare the best we can over here in the States and other parts of the world too. And protect everybody, essentially just try to protect everybody. So it's just hard to process in real time, I mean, with anything. And then, too, you factor in, like, even stuff that we do know, or at least we've been told for years is true, we get farther away from it and we're like, okay, well, I don't even know if that is real either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? I mean, it was pretty much well established that Hitler was killed in World War II in his bunker. And now there's a ton of evidence pointing that the FBI and the CIA or whoever else was still looking for him, and that there's hard evidence that he was in South America and lived out his days there and stuff. And that's a whole nother thing. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, that was pretty well established that he was dead, and then now it's like, okay, well, maybe he wasn't. It's just hard to know what the truth is,
Right.
man. There's every person that has an opinion on something, there's an opposite opinion.
Yep.
You know, you look at Fox, they've got an idea of how things are. And then you flip over to CNN and it's a complete opposite. It's just very confusing time to be a human being. And there's so much information. We have the ability to receive all this different information and try to navigate those waters and pull out from all these different streams what is actually true and what isn't.
Yep.
It's very tough, to the point where a lot of times I just kind of check out.
Yeah.
I don't even tap into those streams, especially like mainstream news.
Yep.
If it's big enough, I'll find out about it, but I'm not living in that world by any means.
Yeah.
What do you think, Zach?
I mean, I think
Can you bring clarity to this issue?
I
for
wish I
our
could.
people?
What is the
I
truth?
wish I had it. I think Jesus is the truth. That's,
There
that's
you
my
go.
answer.
All right. Well,
Sunday
move on.
school.
Austin, any
Here's
other
the-
subjects?
Here's the thing that's so difficult, and Lance touched on it a little bit. Because we have so much access to opinions and information, it clouds truth. And then not to mention, our information providers have agendas. And I mean, I'm not trying to get into like this whole debate. I'll just say it and kind of move on. But even news at this point is entertainment to some degree. It's not just news for information's sake. It's news for information's sake and also entertainment. And so they have an agenda, which is to get you to keep watching, which means it's going to in some way skew the way that they give you the information. You know what I mean? And so that kind of clouds truth. And so the more opinions you have, the harder it is to find actually the base of what is true. And it's even that way in the church, because the church, you know, depending on what church you go to, they'll say, well, these are super important things, and these are super important things, or these, and if you don't believe this, then you're not this, or you have to believe this to be this. And so it's no wonder there's so much confusion in the world, because even like I'm heavily affiliated with the church world, so that's the only one I can really speak to, because I don't really know enough about government to give an accurate answer or something of worth, really. And so even in the church world, though, there's a reason why people are walking away from what is supposed to be the truth giver. Like, the church is supposed to be the one that's lighting the way and saying, hey, here's truth. In a world full of all kinds of questions, here's truth. The reason people are walking away from that is because we, as the church, can't even come to an agreement on what truth actually is. You know, like, we can't even agree on that. And so the more opinions you get, the more trust issues people have, because trust is a big deal in truth. If you don't trust the person that's giving you that knowledge, even if it's true, you don't accept it as truth. It might be true, but you don't accept it that way because you don't trust the person. And so trust is a big deal, and it's just a cloudy thing. And so really, simple as the answer is, Jesus is really the only truth that I know. If I don't build my life on that truth, everything else is, shaky ground, so to speak. If I don't build my life on what I know to be true, on bad days, good days, rainstorm, whatever it is, if I don't build it on Jesus, the foundation of my life, then at any point, a brick can come out of the bottom and it all crumbles. I mean, that happens all the time. I'm not anti-science in any way. But even science as an example, 50 years ago, maybe science says, well, this is how something happens. But then as knowledge progresses and they find a new way to see it, they say, oh, wait a minute, we didn't have the whole picture. Now this is how it happens. It's not because they wanted to give you false information in the beginning. It's because they didn't have the full picture. They could only see it, and so they thought, oh, that's how it works. But then when you see the whole picture, or at least more of the picture than you saw before, you realize, oh, that's actually not it. And so even that happens in the science world. That's like, oh, I built my whole thing on this, and then one brick comes out as more information comes and then falls apart. And so, again, if I don't build my life on what I know to be true at the very, very base layer and filter everything through that, then I feel like my whole life is, to some degree, in a dangerous place. Able to be shaken.
Ground.
Yeah, able to be shaken at any time.
I think in order to, a person who is actually seeking the truth, right, is a person who is trying to see things accurately so that they can make good decisions to move something forward, right? Either their life forward or humanity forward. Maybe they're, selfish person. So they're like, I want to find the truth so I can make decisions that give me the best opportunity or give me the most gain. Or I want to find the truth, as a lot of people are saying right now, so that I can move humanity forward, so that I can help to provide justice in the world. Man, somebody's phone is blowing up.
It's not mine.
I think it's mine. It's over there.
Golly.
Is it on the case? That's
Yeah.
what it is. He's a popular guy. That's Sally's a popular guy.
My apologies.
That's all good. We're just living life here.
Punch Ariel in. Let's see what she has to say.
I think that's actually the lady that's hopefully babysitting my child.
All right.
Trying to get a babysitter.
Call her. We'll put her on Bluetooth.
Hey, listen, if you're out there listening and you are a babysitter who I can trust,
that's a big
holla at me.
Big responsibility.
But so people are trying to learn what the truth is so they can take steps forward. And I think if you truly want to know the truth, you have to be open to an alternate truth besides your own. You guys, I don't.
Yes.
So I'm thinking this out. Everybody, this is going to be, I don't know, I'm just going to say it. Everyone has their own truth, right? Everybody walks around with their worldview, with the way they perceive things that are going on. But what is true about my truth is it's not completely true.
Well, that's even a
Right?
thing in culture right now. The whole phrase of "live your truth." I don't know if you guys have heard that, but that's a thing people say. Like, I'm just trying to live my truth.
Yeah.
I'm trying to live my truth. But like you said, that's not accurate to the definition of truth.
Yeah.
Truth can't be your version of truth and this person's version of truth and there's only one truth.
Yeah.
It can't be multiple truths, right? There's only one. And so I think that's where all the confusion comes from, is because we use language that's just like, what is that even, how can that be true? How can that be?
true? Yeah. So, I mean, it's like on some level, I think if we say we want to know the truth about humanity, or let's just say about America, on this issue of race and systemic racism and everything that's going on, the tension between black people and white people, or police and whoever. If we want to know the truth about those issues, then we have to be willing to say, okay, there's a truth that I have, there's a perspective that I have, there's a way that I see it, but the truth about humanity, or the truth about this tension between these two groups, is more nuanced and more multifaceted and has more layers than just my perception of it, than just my version of it. And I think until you become willing to admit that and vulnerable to change of your truth, you're not really seeking truth. Is that true?
I think it is because with a hunger for truth, you have to also, what Lance was saying last week, be willing to be wrong. You have to, or because to not be, you're also saying I already have the full truth.
Yeah.
And we all know that we don't. You know what I mean? We know that we don't. And so unless you have the mindset of I'm willing to be wrong, this is what I think, but I'm willing to be wrong about this in my desire for actual truth, then you can maybe find truth. If not, you're going into it with a premise that already says I already know. So it's like listening to a conversation when you've already thought about your answer.
Mm-hmm.
You're not responding to what the person said.
Yeah.
You're just saying whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of the same thing as going through life with your version of truth, but an unwillingness to kind of maybe see another side.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not listening if you're just thinking about your talking point. You're not
Right.
opening yourself up.
Yeah,
I think
you
it's a good starting point.
You have
too.
to listen. You have to listen to find truth. You have to.
Mhm.
It's essential.
I think we have a responsibility too to get outside of whatever echo chamber that we like to be in. You know, it's good to get confirmation bias on stuff. You know, if I want to talk about, as far as spiritual things, if I want to talk about Jesus and how awesome he is, I'm going to talk to Zach about it. But I think it's also important to maybe talk to somebody that's like, I don't think Jesus is even a real person.
Yeah.
Just get their perspective on why they feel that way. And maybe by learning something from them, maybe talking to them, maybe you learn like, okay, well, they've not convinced me of anything, but maybe I understand why they feel that way now, or maybe I see holes in why they feel that way, and I can actually help them understand that where I'm coming from too, and have a good back and forth.
Yeah.
We don't need to be afraid to have conversations with people who think differently than us.
Yeah.
I think that's
I
a
agree.
big thing, and get outside of our echo chamber. So if you love listening to the Fox News or watching it, maybe check into CNN or MSNBC or something else, just to round out what you're seeing, so you're not just hearing the same thing over and over again.
What do you
And-
guys?
and- yeah.
What do you guys think is? Do you think there's a difference in reality?
And truth.
Yeah.
I have that question.
Or maybe even reality experience and truth, right? Because I'm thinking about this. If I picture Jesus on the cross, to everyone looking on, it looks like he's guilty. It looks like he's guilty of whatever crime he committed that would merit the cross. So that looks like the reality. The reality is he was crucified on a cross meant for sinners. So to everyone watching, it looked like the reality was that he was a sinner, but he wasn't. And so I think people's experience and their reality, because that's what it is. Your experience is your reality. Can be a true. It truly happened to you, but it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean it should have. In truth, is that the way that you would say that? I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Maybe it doesn't mean what happened to you isn't a result of. Let's just keep it to spiritual things. Maybe you got sick or something. That doesn't mean God gave you a sickness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe that's the way that in your reality, in your own mind, you've received it. Does that make sense?
So in your reality, God made you sick, but that maybe isn't true.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
It's tough because I was thinking back to people that saying that I'm just living my truth.
Yeah.
I think what people are saying is I'm living my reality. I'm living what's real to me. You know what I mean? Like what's real to me. I think those two things are a line that gets blurred is what's real to me and what's truth.
Yeah.
Because we all know now, just because I see it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
Right? Because like you can see all kinds of stuff. It doesn't mean it's true. Even if I see it with my eyes, it doesn't mean it's true anymore. You know, with like all those deep fakes and stuff like that. It can look real as all get out, but it doesn't mean it's true. And so I think that's what that tension and that misunderstanding and the blurriness comes from is just like it's a real experience for people. And it's also that same real experience on the opposite end for someone else, but there's still a truth there. You know what I mean? Like we were talking about the racism thing. There's people who really, really experience racism throughout their life. There's people who don't experience racism throughout their life. You know, there's people who
Yeah.
go through their whole life and never experience racism. But that doesn't, just because they didn't experience it, for them, racism might not be truth to them. It's like, I never experienced it. I don't know if it's true or not. But it doesn't change the fact that it actually is true.
It is true, but it is not reality to them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I think that's important for people to understand. Like, we need to find out what is actually happening for real.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Let me find out what's happening for real so that I can know. Because like you're talking about, if I just live in my own bubble, I don't know anything outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
How informed am I actually of reality and of even truth? Tough. It's tough thing. I don't know if we got anywhere, but
Well, I think so. I mean, my first thought was, I'm wondering if truth and reality are just interchangeable terms. But I found just a quick Google search. I found one way that a person put it that does make sense. Truth is a statement that is in accordance with reality. And then reality is a thing that exists in fact, having previously only existed in one's mind. And so the way I would probably explain that or give an example would be, if you said, if you had a vision for something, you wanted to do something, or if you said, I love pizza. Well, that's true. But when I go eat a pizza, like I love a pizza, now it's reality. Or if you said,
I feel like I'm just drowning in this conversation right now.
I'm going
We're
to,
going way over my head right now.
when you said I love pizza, the only thing I wanted to say was, "Won't you marry?"
or I try to start us on the elementary level. Or if I say, I'm going to go build this building in Lexington, Kentucky. It may be true.
Yeah,
It's true.
you want to.
But it's not reality because it's true because it exists in my mind. It has
I
only
see.
existed in my mind.
I see.
It's
But
not
now I
reality 'cause
go
it's not there right
and
now.
build it. Now it's reality that I'm going to build this building.
Like a physical representation.
Yeah,
I
it
see.
actually happened
I
in the
see.
world, not just
Yeah.
in my mind.
I see that. I can go with that.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we figured it out.
I don't know if we did. I may be more confused.
Kudos to Google.
But yeah, I mean, it is a hard thing, obviously, to comprehend and understand. And we've even used the word truth and true while we're trying to figure out what truth and true means, which makes it even more
What we know
difficult.
is this. What I can tell you is this of a surety. Jesus said, "I'm the way, I'm the truth, and I'm the life." And so in some ways we can use that as a filter when we're looking for truth. Does it look like Jesus? Does it resemble Jesus? If not, then it probably is easy to say that's not truth. Because if that's true, if what he said is true, if we believe that he is truth, he's the way, he's the truth, and the life, that means all truth has to flow through him and from him.
Yeah.
And I think that may be a healthy filter to just look at things through for a Christian. For a non-believer, then that probably isn't that helpful. But for a Christian, I think if you're looking for truth, look for Jesus, and you found truth.
Yeah. In a, I guess, real world, not that obviously Jesus is real world, but in a more practical, maybe secular sense, I guess, when you're looking for truth about what's going on in the world, and I guess all truth, the truth is that finding the truth, I think, is hard work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we get to that point where we just kind of like, ugh, like seriously, I got kids to raise. I got to make money so I can feed my family. So I have to have a job. I ain't got time to sit around and figure out truth, which is not invalid, but at the same time, I think maybe it in some ways, and this is coming from one of the conversations I had with somebody this week. In some ways, I think that it is indicative of a system and a pace that we have accepted as human beings, especially in America, that does not allow us the time to seek truth, seek relationship, to seek something we're going to talk about later, which is conversation, where we can find somebody else's truth and meet them on a common ground. That we've accepted the structure around us to the extent that, I ain't got time to sit down and study this out. Mm-hmm. I don't have time to figure out the book I need to buy to study this out. You know what I mean? Or whatever. But man, if truth, if truth can't take your time, it's like, what even
if it isn't worth your time.
Yeah. If it's not worth your time, then what is?
Yeah.
Obviously people, and I think people should always be more important than truth. And I think that's evidenced in Scripture. I think that's evidenced by the way Jesus always seemed to put people ahead of the law. And he even made the point, who was the law made? Was the law made for man, or was man made for the law? People are the most important part of all of it. And so, I think that that one of the best ways, as I mentioned, to seek truth and to find truth, because everybody's walking around with their own version of it, right? Like we said, everybody's got their own truth. The best ways that I've found to do that is to actually sit down with people and talk to them. Mm-hmm. And as technologically advanced as we are in 2020, we have no reason we can't, and we have no excuse, because we can jump on the phone with somebody, we can jump on a Zoom call with somebody, we can take somebody to lunch. It's not difficult to do. It's not hard. It's not complex, I should say. But for some reason, we make it difficult, I think.
Yeah.
And we would rather, apparently, just comment on somebody's, Facebook post. These guys are so popular. Wow. Somebody call me.
Here's the thing, too. I think that makes it difficult, too, is
somebody call me.
Is truth is more.
Hang on, yeah.
I never have my phone on loud, and I turned it on loud to show Zach, to make sure I could show Zach a
Did
thing
you just
of
say
music.
you turned your phone on loud?
I don't know. It was. I usually
man.
have it on silent. I don't have the ringer on.
Yeah.
I guess is the right.
Welcome
way to say
to
it.
Neanderthals Anonymous.
And so my wife called me, and I just ignored it on air. Yeah. So thanks,
on air.
On air.
Yeah,
you don't
on
even
the
have
air.
time for people.
On
your own
the
life.
air.
But what I was saying is,
Zach didn't answer his phone either.
You're right. I didn't. What's interesting too is truth is more than knowledge. It is knowledge, but it's more than that.
Yeah.
Because how many times have people, in search of knowledge of Jesus, lost the truth of what it means to follow Jesus?
A lot of times.
A lot of times. And so even Jesus said that. He's talking to him. He's like, hey, you guys give a tenth. You said that last week.
Yeah.
You guys give a tenth, but you're forsaking actually what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And so I think that happens too. I'm not saying don't seek out knowledge. I think that's super important. I think you should do that. But even in pursuit of knowledge, if you think knowledge is going to lead you to full truth, you're missing a part of Christianity, because part of Christianity is being in a relationship with people, a large part of, because even the disciples, I was thinking about today, some of us do a Bible devotion together, and I was reading it this morning, and in the book of Acts, I think it's Acts 6 maybe, Peter and John are standing in front of everybody after they've just been arrested and healed this man. And they go on this big thing, and they're so bold, and they're saying, you guys are the ones who crucified Jesus. Yeah. And all the educated people who are supposed to have the truth and have all the knowledge, they look at these people, and what do they say to them? Who are these guys? They don't even have an education. Mm-hmm. But they had they met truth face to face, and it changed them. And so I think that's an important thing too. It's like, it is knowledge, but it's not just knowledge.
Yeah.
It's so much more than that. And it's in all honesty, truth is a person, the person of Jesus.
Yeah.
And when you meet him and you allow him to change you from the inside out, and you actually, are in a lifestyle of this seeking out of Jesus, inevitably you find truth.
Yeah.
You seek truth when you seek Jesus. And I think maybe that's the easiest way to answer the question. If you want to know truth, get to know Jesus and allow him, the maker of truth, to reveal what is true in reality.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think definitely people, in an effort to learn about Jesus or gain knowledge of Scripture or whatever, miss out on the truth of Jesus. Or people, including ourselves, it's a constant growth as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus, to not just know about Jesus, but to know Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think that's where spirituality meets practicality, where the truth, where when we say, well, Jesus is truth, and that sounds churchy and cliche and really unhelpful. But I think that's where Jesus' truth meets, okay, what's going on in the world today? And what I mean is, whatever's going on in the world today, I think we have to do our best to go back to Jesus' day and say, okay, what was going on in his world? What did he encounter that was like this? Maybe he didn't say anything about this exactly, but how did he respond? What did he do? How did he act towards these type of people or this person? Or what did he not do? What did he not say? And if he's truth, then how he behaved has to be our guide. That is, I am the way, the truth, and the life. That is what I am the truth means, and what it means, like that is the ultimate truth. We have to look for that guidance first, and it is incredibly unfortunate and sad and frustrating and all of the other things that for some reason, even as Christians, we can read the same truth and come away with a different version of reality.
Yeah.
And you mentioned last week that what a shame it was, that the church has failed that officer who murdered George Floyd. And then I think I said something like, or even worse, maybe he is a part of a church, or he has encountered the church, and he still has this in him. And this exists. Like this friend of mine from high school has been pretty open on Facebook about her support of Black Lives Matter and Black people, and she's a white person. And she posted one thing, raising money for a kid that got beat up during one of the riots or whatever. And, it's a good, noble thing to do. It's a loving thing to do. And she gets this comment, and here's what it says. It says, I have a suggestion for you. Since you love Black people so much and you love tattoos so much, why don't you have your face and neck and arms tattooed black? Then you'll fit right in with them. You already have the collagen-injected lips.
Golly. That's so aggressive.
Guess what else is on this person's Facebook page?
Don't tell me there's like something about a cross.
Oh,
Jesus on there?
If we really want to change things, we got to put Jesus back into all the things we blocked him out of. School, the courtrooms, the law. And I'm just like,
Oh my gosh.
guys,
That's so aggressive.
what is going on? How is it possible that you can? I don't know. I don't know his story. I don't know his background. I don't know anything. But I feel as though there's no way. There could be no way that you are connected to the heart of God and understand Jesus, or you've read the Gospels and given them a thought beyond memorizing a verse here or a verse there, or just listening to what the pastor said or whatever. Like, if there's, I can't imagine that you have a personal relationship with Jesus. And this, I'm not questioning salvation. I'm talking about like you're walking with him, yet feel like it's okay to say something like that to somebody. Am I off base?
I hope not.
Okay.
I don't think you're off base. Christian or not, that's just
That's just so mean, man.
Come on,
It's just not helpful.
let's not hate each other. I mean, Lance was talking about that last week. One thing you said a second ago that I think is super powerful that I want to touch on because I don't think we should miss it is you said what when we're looking at Jesus, what did he say? What didn't he say? There was a lot of times when Jesus chose to not say anything at all. And a lot of times we feel like we have to say something. And there's also other times when Jesus chose to not address the situation in that context, but then go address it somewhere else. So it wasn't like he was saying, I'm not going to talk about that, period.
Yeah.
He said, here is not the place to talk about that.
Yeah.
Which I think in the current climate that we live in with social media is a great thing to look at the life of Jesus and say, wait a minute, I might have something to say about what I just read on that comment. But is responding in this arena the best place to respond to that? Because why do you want to respond in the first place? Do you want to respond because you want to advocate change and have a conversation with the person and try to get them to see it differently? Or are you just lashing out and you just want to be mean?
Mm-hmm.
Those are two very, very different things. And so I think if the reason you're responding to a comment is because you want to get to the core of what that person is saying or try to help them to think differently because you think they're thinking wrong, maybe you should try to meet that person and talk to them.
Sure.
Rather than just lashing out on their social media account. And then, like, what help did that do?
Yeah.
What did it do?
No,
You
it's
know
just
what I mean?
mean-spirited, man.
It's just mean. And so with the life of Jesus, there were a lot of times, like Austin said, that he chose to not say anything at all. Sometimes he healed people and said, don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
That's crazy when you think about it. You know what I mean? Like we would say, well, you got a testimony, don't you?
That's
Yeah.
viral marketing.
Go share your testimony. Sometimes
Somebody gets
Jesus
healed.
said, sometimes he said, you know what? Don't tell anybody.
Mm.
And that's crazy because it's just not the way that we live now.
Yeah.
It's just not the way that we live. And so to wrap our head around what it means to actually live like Jesus, it's very, very anti-world. It's not like anything that's happening in the normal, everyday, world-to-world, day-to-day thing, the way people live, the way we all live. It's not a lot when you look at it the way that Jesus actually lived.
Yeah.
Very different. And for us as Christians, I think we need to just get back to how did Jesus actually live his life? And whatever changes I need to make in my day-to-day to be more like that, obviously I can't make them all at one time, but being on this path of living a life that looks like Christ, to be a Christian, a little Christ, that's what
Yeah.
that word means. To look like him, I think what you have to do is you have to study his life.
Yeah.
You have to educate yourself on his life, get to know him, see what he did and how he responded. And the truth is, like you said, Austin, the things that were happening in the world during Jesus' time, at the core, they're not much different than what's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same stuff, it's the same stuff that's happening, and the way Jesus responded to issues, we can learn on how to respond to basically any issue that might arise in your life. And so it's not that much different. And so if we could study him, then I think we would just be doing a lot better. But to go back to that comment, I just feel like I think that's super sad.
Yeah.
That person would say that to someone else, but also sad that they would be okay to say that. Like they would think, oh, this is okay for me to say.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
You ain't got nothing nice to say.
Right.
Say nothing.
And I don't share that to say, man, this guy's terrible or whatever. Obviously, I'm not mentioning any names, but the point is, this is how we've chosen to have conversation these days.
Yeah. Can that even be considered a conversation?
Right. Or I would go so far as to say, listen, if you're listening to this or watching this and you're a Christian, stop having conversations on social media. It doesn't work. It doesn't exist. There's a reason that God gave us a body. There's a reason we have body language. There's a reason we have tone and inflection, and we have expression in our face when we talk, because it helps us know how the other person's feeling. When you just look at text, you could be feeling, and everybody's experienced this. You've got an email from somebody or a text from somebody, and you've been like, you've received it a certain way that wasn't how they intended, and you took it that way because of how you were feeling, and you're like, man, well, are they mad at me? Are they whatever? And then now you've got this truth that you're living in that isn't reality.
Right.
And so it's just so hard to communicate effectively that way. And typically, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it has existed out there, but I feel like it's not a stretch to say that Facebook conversation or social media conversation rarely ends in a positive move forward for anybody. Maybe 1% of the time, probably less. And so, you know, my thoughts on the matter, so I basically have a pretty strict no Facebook comments on anything that is conflicting or difficult or whatever. I just don't allow myself to do it because I don't think it's productive. Now I'll get on there and say something silly to somebody just to make them laugh or whatever. I'll comment on whatever. Your kids look great in that picture. They're cute. That's awesome. Whatever. But like, we're not having deep theological debates or discussions about racism or systematic racism or any of that stuff. We're not having that discussion there. So my thoughts are, if you care and you really want to learn, seek a conversation with that person. Seek a phone call. Seek a Zoom call. Sit down at lunch. And I had this happen this past week. There was a older friend of mine. He's not older. He's 3 years younger than me, but we were friends back in high school. And he's a white guy. He married a black lady. And he put a post on Facebook, and I saw it. And it stirred something in me. It made me a little frustrated. It made me like, I don't know about that. Like, I definitely disagree with the premise. You know, I agree with some of it, but this thing, man, I don't, you know. So I was irritated, you know. And so I broke my rule. I got on there and I said, hey, I appreciate your perspective on this. I have a different perspective. If you'd like to have a conversation, send me a direct message. I would love to talk about it. Sure enough, he did. Mm-hmm. And then we ended up having an 1.5-hour Zoom call the other day. And it was an incredible conversation, great conversation. And I learned things about his perspective, and I grew in my perspective. And likewise, he learned things about my perspective. We were able to challenge each other. We were able to say, why is it that you think that? Why is it that you believe that? What about this? What about that? And nobody's feelings were hurt. Nobody was mad. And it was great. And I guarantee you with 100% certainty, if I had tried to have that conversation on social media, today I would probably be more ticked off towards him. I would have way different feelings towards him right now than I do now because we had that conversation. 100%.
You wouldn't have got anywhere either.
Exactly.
And the peanut gallery would have just piled on. And seriously, it just turns into throwing mud at people.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's awesome. I think that's great.
That's great.
I just think that the power of conversation is totally is totally undervalued and underutilized and understood. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and again, it's hard work. Who's got an 1.5 hours to sit and talk to somebody? But it didn't have to take an 1.5 hours. It could have been over lunch. It could have been anywhere. It could have been, hey, come to, the house for dinner.
It goes back to the worth thing. You have to find worth in it to put time into it, because let's be honest, we all waste an hour. We all waste time.
Whether you're driving down the road or whatever, you could talk to somebody.
I'm saying we actually waste it. Driving down the road, you're going somewhere. We all waste time. Yeah. And so I think it's to honestly look at the time that we have and say, what is the best way for me to use this, and understand that there is incredible worth in hearing an opinion that doesn't support and agree with yours.
Yeah. There's
incredible worth in that. And so I think to seek that out again is super valuable. I have a question for you guys.
Let's go.
Do you guys think if Jesus lived now, do you think he would have social media?
Jesus Juke. Jesus does live now.
In person. Physical.
First time I pushed the amen button for myself.
Physical person.
Okay, go ahead. If he lived now, what?
Do you think he'd have social media?
If he did, I don't think he would be aggressive on it. I think he would just probably say something and not check the comments.
The headline for this one is going to now be, would Jesus have social media?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to downplay social media. I think social media has incredible potential for good, also incredible potential for bad. But what do you think?
I think he would. I think he's an influencer.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think he would have it, but I don't think he would be getting into the mud on comments.
Yeah.
I think he probably post stuff or reply to people, but not engage in the, I don't know, the venom that is in some of those comments, especially Twitter.
That's
The
what I
place
thought.
is a dumpster fire.
That's what I thought first when I first asked myself the question in my head. But then I thought, wait a minute. A lot of times he said stuff to make people leave. So it feels like sometimes social media, like that's what I thought, is like he would have social media because he is an influencer and he would want to speak to large gatherings of people to grow this audience. But sometimes he made people leave on purpose.
Here's
So, I don't know.
here's the better question. Would he block people? Would he block people on Twitter?
He would just unfollow where they wouldn't see.
Well, if he
So they
wasn't
can't
following,
see. He would leave them in purgatory. I know someone who does that.
would he follow anybody? Because technically, they're just following him. So would he follow anybody?
He'd be like Jay
Ooh.
Billis, no followers.
Yeah.
He has one follower,
Yeah.
the Father.
himself. I told Jonah. I said, Jonah.
No, never mind.
Jesus.
Sorry.
Jesus is alive, and he was like, Jesus died. I was like, yeah, but he rose from the dead. He's like, well, where is he? I was like, well, he's in heaven with God, and he's like, so he's not. He's like, he's not here. I was like, well, the Holy Spirit's here with us now.
Yeah.
And just trying to explain
Difficult.
to a 5-year-old.
Difficult.
Yeah.
I explained it to Sadie the other day during bedtime, and
You're
she
like,
picked it
"What?"
up just like that. She was like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
I got it.
Got it.
Figured it out.
Except you become like little children. You will never
He's
inherit
cool-
the kingdom
he's
of
cool-
God.
He's cool with Jesus dying on the cross. The whole raising from the dead thing and being back in heaven is harder for him to
Difficult
wrap his mind
stretch.
around. Yeah.
Sure.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
He's
to
a
me.
I think a
Thinking-
lot of people are
thinking
probably
man.
in that camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ellie is
So
just
he's not saved yet. So we're
Yeah, Ellie just keeps like forgetting what's going on. Like we have the conversation. She's like, yeah, and then we'll be talking about it again, and she'll say, yeah, and they she always says they made him have spots. And what she means is like, he got cuts and all that. And I say, yeah, and did he die? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, and is he dead now? She's like, yeah. Like we just talked about this. So it's
Yeah,
a hard,
real sad.
it's
He's
a
still
hard
gone.
thing. Yeah. It's
That's
definitely
tough.
a hard concept. So yeah, truth is hard to understand. Truth is hard to know. I think conversation is one of the best gateways to truth. I think relationship is one of the best gateways to understanding a truer sense of reality than you already know, than you already understand. I think that if we're going to make progress in humanity, let's say, as far as race relations, systemic racism, all of these things, I think we are all going to have to be willing to accept and admit that our version of truth is not the complete version of truth. That our version of truth is not exactly reality. It's a part of reality. It's part and parcel of reality, but it's not the complete reality. And so I think if you find yourself in one extreme or the other on any issue, be that political, race, theological, if you find yourself in the extreme, it seems to me that is a stance of holding really strongly to your truth and not necessarily being open to an alternate truth or more nuanced, layered, multifaceted truth or reality that exists out there. So I would urge anybody, in one of those in one of those camps to consider really just kind of loosening the vice grip that you have on your version of reality and really, really, really considering. Because when you go in to any conversation, and that's what this is, even on the, national level right now, it may look like violence and rioting right now, but it's a conversation. They are trying to communicate, and we're trying to communicate with each other. And when you do that with your mind already closed and with your mind already made up, then like Zach said earlier, that's really not a conversation. You're not really looking for a middle ground. And so what you do is you alienate anybody else who accepts the possibility that there is a middle ground, who accepts the possibility that there's a truer reality between what you think and what they think. And so that means that, if you're a police officer and you don't stand up for all police officers, then all of a sudden you're ostracized from the fraternity.
Yeah, you're not welcome.
You're not if you either stand with all of us or you're against us. And there's no room for anybody to think individually. You have to think like the group thinks. And if you vary at all, then, it's just like there was, I can't remember, one of the mayors, Pastor Trevor was telling us about one of the mayors who came down and stood with all the protesters and was in support and said a few things. And then one lady grabbed the mic and said, tell us right now, are you for defunding the police? And he wouldn't say that he was.
Right.
And so immediately everybody just turned on him and was just like yelling at him. Like they had to like get him out of there. And it's just like, okay, well, where's the room for the discussion? Where's the room for the learning? Where's the room for the conversation and the knowledge to come in? Does he not get the opportunity to say, well, that is something we will consider, but I can't decide right now that we're definitely going to do that.
Yeah.
That is something that we will have you come in and talk to us about. That is something we'll sit down and have panels and discussions and open forums and, does he not get that opportunity? Apparently not. That's what I'm saying is that we have to begin to allow people to be individuals. And that's what we're all crying out for anyway. At the heart of all this is, hey, don't judge all of us the same because of our skin. Don't judge all of us the same because we wear a badge. Don't judge all of us the same because of whatever. Yet, we're telling, by the way that we're trying to have this conversation, on both sides, on all sides, we are actually telling people, yeah, you have to conform to this group. You have to conform to this. Don't put me in this group. Don't label me. Don't identify me by all this group stuff. But if you don't completely conform to the group, then you're not in the group. So to me, if we don't fix that, if we don't open our hearts and our minds to coming out of those hardline stances, then I don't know that we make much progress.
Yeah.
Or that we make that we have the opportunity to make any rational, healthy, good decision. Because now we're forced to just make drastic decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that there needs to be a healthy middle ground that people can, because really, if you're honest with yourself, there are things that the extremes have in common that they can come together on. And maybe they do think differently on very different subject, on the same subject, but there are other subjects they probably have some sort of common ground on that they can start there. Same thing with the church. There's things that we all agree on that we can start there. We have that.
Yeah.
Jesus died for our sins, rose. He's the way, so that's we can all start there, and then we can work through the other stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's a responsibility on the individual to do some deep diving. And I know that you guys have this past week, had some conversations, done some things. And for me I've grown up in Corbin my whole life, essentially. I went to school at Western Kentucky University, so I was there for 4 years, but I lived in Corbin my whole life. Corbin's got a pretty real history with racism that they've had to deal with. And so I did some research, when I was really faced with the whole racism stuff in relation to my city when I went to Western Kentucky University. First off, Corbin's a very white town. Not a lot of black people there. And so when I went to Western Kentucky, it was the first time that I was really around other cultures, really other cultures in general, not even just black people, but, you know, all sorts of different people groups. And so that was a great diversifying experience for me to be there. But what I learned quickly was how people felt about Corbin that were outside of it. A friend of mine was in a sociology class, or I think a sociology class, and they started, all right, we're going to show this documentary today. And the documentary is called Trouble Behind, and it was made in 91, and it's about Corbin and racism. And my friend from Corbin, very uncomfortable in that room full of all sorts of different diverse groups, black people, all sorts of different people. And so I remember hearing about that documentary, and so this past week, actually yesterday, I watched it. I can't remember if I watched it before this, but I was like, I got to watch this again. So basically, in October 31st of 1919, during that time period, there was the First World War was going on, and men from the community, Corbin's a railroad town. There's a railroad there, and that was a big part of their economy. And men would go off to war, and a lot of the black men that did not go to the war would fulfill some of these roles and jobs and help, you know, the infrastructure of the economy in the States. And so there was about 200 or so men that were in Corbin working through the railroad and living in the community locally. And a lot of these men came back from the war and were like, you know, probably not happy that some of their jobs are being taken, had real racism towards the black people in the community that weren't there before they came back or before they left. And so there was some allegations that were made about some of the black guys doing inappropriate things or saying things to some of the white women in the community. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. But all I know is that on October 31st, 1919, a mob of white men at gunpoint rallied up all of the black people in the community, put them on a train, and sent them to Knoxville.
Wow.
In a night. And that's just one example. There was people were, you know, hung and murdered across this time and stuff, like just really horrible stuff. And so that happened in my town. And that's part of our history. And so in this documentary, they're talking to different people, and this was made in the late 80s, or maybe 1990 or something like that, and put out in 91. So I don't know when the actual film was made, but it was put out in 1991. And so that was 30 years ago. Very different. It's changed a lot since then. I can automatically tell just from watching the video. And it's on YouTube too. You're welcome to watch it if you want. It's a hard watch. It was a very hard, sobering watch for me to watch it, just knowing that this is my town. But I was listening to one of the guys that was interviewed on the documentary, and he was saying, I don't think he was making the argument that there wasn't any value in really reliving that past and looking at it and talking about it, because that's not where they are now, was his thing. But that's one of the worst ways I think that we can go about doing stuff, is trying to hide. Hiding our past is never a good thing. You got to air this dirty laundry, get it out there, call it what it is, so we can learn from it and move on. I fully believe that documentary and the subject around it should be part of the curriculum in our schools in Corbin, and probably London and the other towns too that are around that have had to deal with this, is so we can learn and educate our kids, because it's up to us to talk to our parents, or up to us to talk to our kids, so they can grow up and be better versions than us. You know, they can grow and start farther down the road than even us. And I remember, and Zach, you might feel this way too, I don't know, with sports and stuff, but whenever I went to Western Kentucky, I was playing tennis there, and, you know, people asked where you're from and stuff like that. And I felt shamed to say that I was from Corbin, especially if I was talking to a black person, because I didn't want them to just automatically stereotype me as like, oh, you hate black people, when that wasn't the case at all. So I would just say, and I'm ashamed to say this, but I would not, a lot of times I did not take ownership from where I was from. Out of fear or shame or whatever. I would say I'm from, like, you know, southeastern Kentucky or kind of the London area. You know, sometimes I would just not even say I was from Corbin.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but that's, I was ashamed of it.
Sure.
Now, thankfully, it's gotten a lot better, and there's still work to be had. And Susie Rasmus, our mayor, has been vocal about trying to fix things, and I'm encouraged by too. We had 3 days of peaceful protesting in Corbin. Kara was able to go to that. I know Rufus and his family went, and they brought their son. I think they might have brought one of their other kids. But there was, 100 or so or more every day, people there protesting peacefully, people honking their horns. Kara said there was a lot of support and love, which is great. Cops were down there just, make sure everything was okay.
Yeah.
And not in opposition to the protesters
Right.
either, just like, hey, we're here to protect you.
Yeah.
And, but, there's always knuckleheads out there, and it exists.
Oh, yeah.
People with, coming down with their thumbs down in a few of those, and then one person towards the end, like, literally just yelled the N-word.
Mm-hmm.
By them going by, and it was hard for I'm sure for some of those people to hear that, but overwhelming positive reception from it. So to me, that's a huge progress. And just seeing like, oh man, you had this documentary in 91 talking about this, and some of the stuff in that documentary is really tough to listen to. But 30 years later, you're having protest in favor of Black people. I just thought that was the coolest thing, and it's going to get better.
Speaks to the progress.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. That's what I was going to say when Austin was talking too. Is we have to learn how to celebrate progress before we get to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't just want the finish line and then it be done.
Yeah.
Like we have to learn how to celebrate every step of progress that we take in order for encouragement to sustain to get to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were talking about people that, they want this and they want it now. And if it's not that, then they're not happy.
Yeah.
We can't be that way. We have to learn how to say, okay, we might not be at what I want yet, but at least it's not where it was.
Yeah.
Let's take steps forward and celebrate progress in order to, because what's that saying? What's celebrated gets repeated.
What's rewarded gets repeated.
There you go. What's rewarded gets repeated, and that's true. I think that's true to the human soul. That like, if we will start to reward and celebrate love and acceptance and that kind of thing, that will push this whole thing forward. And so, going back to like those negative comments and stuff, it's just let's not.
Yeah.
Let's learn how to celebrate every small victory.
For sure.
Anytime there's a peaceful protest, celebrate that, because that's somebody that's being supported and feeling supported, and communities that are changing, and communities are full of people. And like Lance was saying, we all have kids. If you have a kid, you want to change something, teach your kid. Teach your kid, and that's the way to move this thing forward, piece by piece by piece, and learn how to celebrate every single small victory, not having the attitude that I'm not going to celebrate till I get to the finish line. Like that's not helpful. That's not helpful at all. And so I think it's a beautiful thing what Lance is talking about. That story of basically redemption.
Yeah.
That's a story of redemption. It's a story of a place who maybe had this mentality, but over time maybe has come to the realization that, hey, wait a minute, this ain't right. Let's change it. And maybe Corbin isn't at the finish line yet, but that doesn't mean that what's happening in Corbin shouldn't be celebrated.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we got to learn how to be people of encouragement, like in this Heroes series here at the Creek. And a couple weeks ago, Pastor Trevor was talking about being an encourager. That's one of those traits of being a hero. That's what we need to be, like encourage one another. You can encourage somebody even if you don't fully agree with them. Like you can still be an encouragement. You can still be an encourager.
Yeah.
Like wake up and decide, today, rather than this, I'm just going to be an encourager and see how your mentality changes just the way that you view people.
Yeah.
If you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to read this, and instead of like finding the things that I don't like about it, I'm going to find at least one thing that I like about it. And maybe even if you want to write something in social media, encourage somebody on social media. Do that instead of the other.
Yeah. Say you're not for protesting, for whatever reason, you're just not for the protesting.
Yeah.
But somebody who's protesting, or you're close with them or whatever, you just have different opinions. You could have a conversation with that person and say, hey, listen, I just want to tell you, I appreciate how passionate you are about this, and that you've got the guts to go out there and stand for something.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think that's big. You know, so you can even meet on that sort of ground.
Yeah.
Like maybe you don't even support the cause fully.
Sure.
You can still celebrate that they've got the guts to do it.
Yeah.
We
You
gotta
know?
we gotta find things about each other that we can celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or else we'll just continue to find things that we hate about each
Yeah.
other, and then this hate stirs up, and then
Yep.
all of a sudden, what started in your head goes all the way into your heart. And
Yeah.
now your heart is polluted with hate because you let that thing sit in your head for
Yeah.
so long that it took root in your heart. And then once you got hate in your heart, it's really hard to get that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard. You can get it out of your head, but hate that lives in your heart, that is a hard thing that to deal with.
I feel like this needs to be said, and I don't know. I mean, you guys can. This might be a good discussion. I don't know, but I feel like it needs to be said. If you say Black Lives Matter, that doesn't mean you're saying no one else matters. It doesn't. Saying Black Lives Matter doesn't mean you're saying that all lives don't matter, or that police officers' lives don't matter. It's become this really silly thing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you see anything with Black Lives Matter on social media, surely somebody's going to come in and say, all lives matter.
Yeah.
People supporting Black Lives Matter, no one disagrees with that comment that all lives matter. Of course it matters.
Right.
It's just that whole confrontational thing.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
like I got to say something to disagree with that statement.
Yeah.
But I also kind of see it like this. The statement all lives matter isn't true unless Black Lives Matter.
100%.
Yeah.
So if Black lives don't matter, and I think we can look at our country and say to some degree that statement is false. Black lives don't matter sometimes in our country.
That statement is true. The statement Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter is false.
Right.
To some
yeah.
degree.
Yeah,
Okay.
to some degree in our country, that statement isn't true. So we can't say all lives matter because they don't. Because there's a portion that don't matter. So all lives don't matter until Black lives matter. That's the truth.
Yeah, and I love tying that to Jesus and the 99 and the 1. Let's just say the one's Black lives. Jesus goes after the 1 to bring them back into the family, the 1 being Black lives.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean Jesus doesn't care about the 99.
Yeah. Right.
He loves the 99.
Right.
Yeah.
He wants to protect the 99, look after them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got to go after the one that feels like they're alone and they're out there by themselves and bring them into the family.
Yeah. I agree.
I think on the All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, all that, you guys are spitting some truth, but I'm about to drop some reality. Oh,
Do we have a sound effect that goes like this?
no, I'm just, I don't know if this is reality or true or not, but what I was thinking was that what's truer than All Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter is I don't think that if we're talking about a national morality, let's say, because it sounds like when we're saying all lives matter or Black Lives Matter, we're talking about to who? To the United States of America? Okay, does that mean to the government? Does that mean to politicians? Does that mean, who are we talking about that they matter to? And so I don't know that we ever get to a place where white lives matter to everyone, or Black lives matter to everyone, or all lives matter to everyone. And it seems like that's what we're asking for. And we should expect that, of course, because everyone should value everyone's life. And some people have that morality, and some people don't. And I don't know that I mean, history teaches us that we probably never will live in a world until the world to come, when Jesus comes back, where everybody values everybody else's life, where all lives truly matter to everyone. Yeah. But again, I think it goes back to that. It's not that all lives matter. It's not that Black lives matter, or that they all ever will. I think it is that Black lives matter to some people, and all lives matter to some people, and white lives matter to some people, and police lives matter to some people, and illegal immigrant lives matter to some people. But what are we asking for when we say that? Like when we're asking for, we want all lives to matter. Who are we asking that of?
I feel like all lives matter is kind of like what Zach was talking about earlier. All lives matter is the finish line. Like that's the goal. That's what we would love for everyone to get. That's where we would love every person to get to, is that point. And maybe there's a point along the way, like you were talking about, that we can somehow take a moment and celebrate where we are and where we have come, because the truth is things have gotten better. They have. Things have gotten better since black people were taken from Africa, brought over here into slavery without their choosing, put into that system for a long time, abolishing slavery, Jim Crow laws, segregation, all this stuff. We've gotten past segregation, and there's stuff to celebrate there. Doesn't mean we're all the way there yet, and we need to work on some more stuff, clearly. But finding ways to celebrate where we have come, I think, is important. Like you were talking about. To me, just the all lives matter thing is just like, that's the finish line. That's where we want to get everybody. But not everybody, like you're saying, is there yet.
Yeah.
And maybe won't be there until, like you're saying.
I agree with what you're saying, but for me, it stops. That concept stops with the church.
Sure.
If to the church all lives don't matter,
Yeah.
that's unacceptable in every way.
Absolutely.
I mean, and then I feel like that's who the only, I mean, like I said earlier, that's the only thing I can speak to.
Yep.
Because that's what I'm a part of. I can't, my, what's the best way to say this? My mandate as a Christian is to reach as many people as I can. And then once those people become Christians, we've all said, now I am, to use this language, it's a biblical language, but now I have made myself a slave to Christ. I've chosen to be a slave to Christ. And that means everything that matters to him matters to me. And so I think we have to have the expectation in the church that all lives matter, and unless it does, it's unacceptable. You know what I mean? Like, it has to.
Yeah.
It's not a we got to work on this and fix it, and if we don't fix it, well, at least we gave it the old college try.
Right.
It has to be, this has to be fixed. It has to be fixed now.
Yeah.
And it's unacceptable if it doesn't. And so to me, it's like, if there's racism in the church, and if there's people in the church who call themselves followers of Christ who think that some lives matter more than others, we got to fix that.
Right. Absolutely.
We got to fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you see a post and you're a follower of Jesus and you're a church person that sees a post and it says Black Lives Matter, and you feel compelled to put All Lives Matter on there, know that that person who put Black Lives Matter is not the enemy.
How about just don't?
Yeah.
Just don't.
Don't, first off, but
Self-discipline.
even in your heart, they're not the enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're trying to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be a contrarian just to be a contrarian.
Again,
Jeez.
it's about what Zach mentioned, celebrating victories and progress. And as a follower of Jesus, are we going to be a contributor to, or what are we going to put out there?
Yeah.
Are we gonna add fuel to the hate fire, or are we going to be contributors to peace and grace and love and victory and resurrection and turning things around? Like everything we put out there on social media or comment or look towards a person, it's communicating something. It is adding, if you want to look at it this way, just to make it real simple, way too simple, you're adding either a plus or a minus out there into the world. You're either taking us towards hate and hell and evil, or you're taking us towards God and towards good. And so, man, I would just say 95% of the time, don't post.
Yeah. And
don't comment.
Use discernment. Jeez.
A little bit of salt goes a long way.
Yeah.
A little. What's the guy that does this thing? I don't know. Just a little bit of salt goes a long way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's, keep that in mind if you're a Christian and you're out there and you want to comment on stuff. A little bit goes a long way. You don't have to throw the whole thing at them. It's just
Full of grace and seasoned with salt.
yeah.
And I would say that there's plenty of seasoning out there.
There's a lot.
We could probably ease up on the seasoning. We put a bad taste in some people's mouth, and let's love. Let's be contributors to that, and celebrate those victories, and really think through the motive behind why we are about to post or say or comment or like or dislike the thing we're about to do. Mm-hmm. What is really the reason that I'm putting this out there? Yeah. And if it is about you at all, forget it.
Yeah.
And I would also say that just because you feel, let's say you do feel like you line up, you say, okay, all lives matter, Black Lives Matter. That doesn't mean that you have to post it on your social media either. And if somebody isn't posting the thing you want them to post, doesn't mean, how about you judge them by their life that they live and about how they love the people around them and about how they've treated you instead of what they're posting on their stinking social media page, right? Mm-hmm. Like, is that how we know who a person is?
I mean, if you're throwing salt on all your stuff, on all your posts, and you're just being super out there, aggressive, whatever, eventually people are going to start tuning you out. Like, no one's going to listen to your message anymore, except for people who are just going to be in your camp.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
If the whole point of you making that post is to try to help people understand your perspective, if you're just going for it every time and just caution to the wind, I don't care who I offend to say this because this is the truth.
Yeah.
You're just going to lose your message and your influence.
Yeah.
The people that I when I'm on social media, or specifically like Facebook, for example, the people that I really lean into are the ones that don't say stuff like politically charged stuff a lot or whatever, but they do decide to do something like that. I'm like, oh, so-and-so said something about this. Wow, I think I want to lean into this, see what they have to say, because I don't hear their perspective a lot. Yeah. And I know they don't just shove it down everyone's throat all the time. So I'm going to lean into this.
Yeah.
That's how you really gain influence with people.
Yeah, for sure. And while we're on the soapbox.
Okay.
Last week, I feel like, at least for me, I talked a lot to myself in terms of like everything I said last week was like, man, this is me. I got to check this. Mm-hmm. And now this week, I feel like I've taken all this time to like ingest everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like, and maybe I'm completely wrong for this, but I feel a sense of duty as a shepherd, to say some of these things. Like, okay, so if you're putting something on Facebook, you're a member of the church. And I don't mean a member of our church. I mean a member of Jesus' church. You're a follower of Jesus. You put something on there. Somebody posts a comment that's an opposing view, and you delete it.
You delete their comment?
Yeah. What are you doing? Okay. So there's a specific example that I saw. And not only did the person delete it, but they said they bragged about deleting it in the post and basically said, yeah, this liberal got on here and said this, and I deleted them. And somebody liked the post, and I wish I would have remembered who that was, and I would delete them too. And it's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You have reduced this person to a label called a liberal. And just because they see the world differently than you have participated in censorship now. You have cut them off. You have said you have no voice. You don't deserve a voice in this conversation because of what you are saying. And anybody who even likes that, I'm going to cut them off. How do you have any idea how dangerous that is? Because if the other side did that to you,
livid.
You'd be livid. You'd be crying. I don't even.
I think it goes back to the majority of the time.
And you're a Christian. Come on, man. I had this friend. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. I'm gonna let you go.
Go ahead.
But since I said that, I had this friend. We've talked about him before on this show. and he passed away. But he got a tattoo in high school, and he went home and showed his mom, and she said, "And you call yourself a Christian?" And that's what that reminded me of. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think I was just gonna say, what we want to do is surround ourselves with people who are exactly like us. That's what feels comfortable. That's what feels like home. You don't have to deal with any disagreements that way. But here's the beauty of it. We all know this. Home is a safe place to have disagreement, because at the core of it, there's still love.
Mm-hmm.
Your real home, you don't always see eye to eye on everybody you grew up with or lived with.
Yeah.
But you're able to overcome those things because love trumps your disagreement. Now, if that's the way we could approach social media, rather than saying, I don't want to surround myself with everybody who agrees with myself.
Yeah.
I want to surround myself with myself. What have you done? In some
all
senses,
about me.
what you've done is you have created yourself as God. I want it like I want it. I want it like I love it. I want it like I got it.
Amen, bud.
And if all you do is surround yourself with yes men and little yous, you are now your God. And unless things happen the way that you want them, you're mad at everybody and you serve yourself. That means you don't serve God anymore. You serve yourself. You've created an image of yourself. That's what we all do. When we set up false gods, what we're doing is we're setting little us's up, because that's what we all want. We want the world how we want it. And unless it's how I want it, then I don't want it.
That's right.
But that's not what Jesus did. Jesus stepped into situations and actually then called us to put ourselves, again, going back to this devotion that we've been doing. He talked about this yesterday. He was talking about how Jesus actually calls you into uncomfortable situations a lot of times. Like to deny yourself. Not set up a God in your own image, but to deny yourself. Put yourself in situations where you actually have to go against what you want because it's what God wants. And very rarely in our own skin and bones does what we want align with what God wants. That happens sometimes, but rarely. And so every time we get that opportunity to deny ourselves as a Christian, that is making you more like God, more like Christ. But if all you ever do is surround yourself with little yous, then you've created yourself as God, and you have a kingdom that you're building yourself. And anytime somebody else, because here's the thing, this is crazy, and I just thought about this.
Go.
How many times do we, as maybe even Christians, we say something on social media, and Jesus pops up and writes a comment that we don't agree with, and we say, delete. I ain't looking at that comment. The Holy Spirit does it to us all the time. He steps in when we say things, and he says, "Wait a minute, is that how you should have responded?" And what do? Delete. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. I don't hear it. That we do that all the time. We have to stop. We have to allow God to speak into our own lives and think that He might know how this thing works a little bit better than we do.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing when we allow other views to step into what we're saying. We're exposing ourselves to a greater truth sometimes. Maybe what that other person's saying isn't true, but perhaps it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's always better to not live in a life where you're God.
Where you're the center.
You can't be the center of your life.
Yeah.
You can't be.
You can't be the center. You can't be ahead of God in your life. But according to Scripture, you can't be ahead of others in your life either.
That's right. And my agenda can't be my God.
Yeah.
My agenda can't be my God. My goals can't be my God. My kid can't be my God. My opinion can't be my God. Those are all terrible, terrible gods, and they're false gods.
Yep.
They're gods created in your image. Not you created in the image of God, but a God that you created in your own image. You can't do nothing. And so it's just, we have to get to a place where we're saying, hey, let me evaluate my life and make sure I'm not the center of it.
Yep.
what you said is that's probably the best way to say it is have to make sure we're not the center of our own lives.
Yeah.
And in a situation like this, it's easy for that to happen, I think.
Yeah.
It's easy for that to happen.
Oh, it is. It is because we think we are representing a version of truth that is better or more true or more reality than every other version out there. And so in some way, I think we're doing the right thing by putting that out. But like I think the common thread amongst, that's kind of woven itself through this entire conversation, it's just been, you do have to, and even last week's conversation, you have to check your motive and the motive of your heart at the door. Like you have to check that before you go do anything and filter it through, how did Jesus handle these things? What did Jesus say about these things? And ultimately when we just don't know, we have to ask that pesky little question, what would love require of me in this moment? Mm-hmm. What is the most loving thing for me to do? Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, many of us are not asking that question as Christians. We are not filtering the things we're saying to people, because when you say something on social media, just because you're behind a keyboard doesn't mean you're not saying it to people. You're still saying it to people. Mm-hmm. And I think we really need to check what we're saying, because I think as sad as it is, as bad as it is, as unfortunate as it is, and disgusting as it is, we are losing influence daily just because we want to make a point as a Christian. Mm-hmm. And we're making our point, but we're losing the battle that God called us to fight, the war that he's called us into, the mission that he put us on, which is to make disciples. And rather than being concerned with that and loving people so that we remain influential, we have chosen many times as the church, as followers of Jesus, to be more concerned with ourselves and to put ourselves in the center, because we want to put this post out so that people know how smart we are, or that we're more enlightened than they are, or that them believing all this stuff is silly and stupid and they shouldn't be so gullible, or whatever it is. And I'll leave us with this, a few of these scriptures. Philippians 2:3 comes to mind. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. That's direct orders. Romans 12:10. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Outdo yourselves in honoring one another.
Wow.
I mean,
how often is that happening?
Are we even close to considering that? Especially on social media? Wow. Outdo yourselves in honoring one another. Even the people that disagree with you. Mm-hmm. Let us not become conceited. This is Galatians 5:26. Let us not become conceited, provoking and envying one another. Mm-hmm. And then I think this one's the best because it takes us back to why we are to do this and to act this way. Ephesians 5:21. Submit to one another out of reverence for Jesus.
Love it.
We do this for Jesus. We do this because of what Jesus did for us. We do this because Jesus said, even I didn't come to serve. Even I didn't come to make this about me. I came here because this is about you. Everything I do, my life, my mission, is all about making your life better, putting you in a better position, lifting you up, and giving you solid ground to stand on. So you don't have to live your entire life in fear, with worry, with shame, with regret, now you can love, you can be happy, you can go and do for people what I've done for you. And so why do we do this? Why do we esteem other people as more important than ourselves and value them more and honor them? We do it because Jesus did it to us.
Yeah.
And we certainly didn't deserve it. Does anyone deserve that from Jesus? No. Does anyone deserve that from us? No. But we've been called to do it. Do we deserve it from anybody else? I don't think so. But we've all been called to do it.
Yeah.
So we have to filter everything we do through that lens that this isn't about me. I'm not the most important. And honestly, I think this trickles down to even really, really simple things. I think the beginnings of this are things like, this is going to get me some heat. Why did you post that selfie of yourself? That was redundant, selfie of yourself. Why did you post that? You know what I mean?
Yep.
What were you looking for?
Yeah.
Was it about you? I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I won't go any farther, but sometimes that makes me scratch my head. And I'm
You're
not
just saying get to the heart of like what's the motivation behind the choices we're making.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
big question.
Yeah.
What's the heart behind why we're doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's posting a certain picture or saying a certain thing on social media, what's the heart behind it? Let's get behind that and figure out what it is. And if
Yeah.
it's not something that's not good, we got to go to work on it.
That's
Yeah.
right.
If it's about us, if it's about me.
A good filter is this. Look back over what you've posted on social media, what you've commented on, whatever you've done on there. Just look back over it, and it'll tell you the position of your heart, because Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, your mouth will speak, or maybe in this context, your fingers will type. And you look back over that, and you'll find it. Even if it's posting a picture of yourself, a selfie, it'll still tell you the position of your heart. Because why did you do it? Because out of the abundance of your heart, we do.
Yeah.
So look around at what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're posting, and it'll give you a pretty accurate picture of what your heart looks like. And if it's not something that aligns with the heart of God, we work on it. Doesn't mean you're bad. Just means we got some work to do. We all do.
Amen to that.
Let's go to work.
We
go to
do.
work.
We got work to do. It's been good today. We've been all over the place. I really don't know if this is helpful or not.
I hope so.
We'll just
Helpful for
call
me.
this social media etiquette for the Christian.
Maybe so.
Thank
My
you,
man
guys.
Jerry Hensley says, "Do work."
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment, and share.
We don't need to let them know that.
We ran out of time. Okay, see you guys.